Welcome back to the Minorities Report podcast. My name is Antonio Alcazar.
And I'm Tick, skates up hills, boy.
We're back with another movie today.
A little bit faster than you expected. We are back in your eardrums already.
March came really quick.
Yeah, man. This month, winter has been very fast. Like, I'm surprised how fast this weather has turned around here in Wisconsin. Went from chilly days to, I think today it was 78 for a high. So I mean, it came by quick.
Yeah, it's so funny because it was winter.
Yes,
the last time we recorded, and the summer is over.
It's still a month.
But the next 10 days are 70 degrees.
Yeah.
So this is our tepid entry into autumn.
Yeah, which means that we'll get a bunch of hot in late September, early October.
Yeah. I wonder how many of these we'll record before I just become overwhelmed again.
You go off on your peyote trips again?
Yeah, I'm going to go on a walkabout. I think my walkabout was long enough.
Yeah. So we're back in your eardrums. We're back on the cast, hitting up with some Blade today.
Yeah, we're doing Blade, which we promised you. I think we started talking about doing Blade last year.
Yeah, probably.
It was December 2021 where we were like, oh, we're going to do Blade.
Something like that. Yeah, it was definitely...
No, I think it was November because we didn't do any December, remember? So it was November, we were like, let's do Blade.
Yeah.
And it is August 2022.
And it's, timely because the new Blade was announced on the track.
Yeah, a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, during, what is that thing
Comic-Con?
called? Yeah, during Comic-Con.
And, after watching this movie, now I'm super excited for the Blade movie, where before I was just like, okay, that'll be another entry.
Another entry into, it's becoming like the No Limit Soldiers, where they just release CD after CD, and you're like, yeah, this is fine. More masterpiece stuff, whatever.
We're gonna do a Marvel episode.
Yeah, we're gonna do a Marvel episode for you guys soon, because we haven't done Marvel in a long time. The last thing we talked about with Marvel was Hawkeye.
Yeah, when Hawkeye finished.
I mean, we've got what were the shows that came out after Hawkeye? Well, it doesn't matter. We'll get to those when we get to those. Because right now we're coming at you with some old school Blade.
This movie came out in 1998 or 99?
1998.
Yeah,
I wrote
was a year before The Matrix.
Yes,
I feel like maybe The Matrix was already done with principal photography or just photography. Mm-hmm. But there were some scenes that really felt very Matrixy, and I know The Matrix came out a year after, but
I think it was the
just so
times.
Funny. Yeah.
I think
because Equilibrium too,
yes.
but that one felt very directly copying The Matrix.
Yes,
whereas this is just they were on the same shit.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. Like that movie, The Raid and Dread. They came out at the same time, both about, within a few months of each other, both about these towers and people fighting up to the top of the tower to stop a drug dealer and shit.
I wonder how much there's producers in the background talking. Well,
sure.
You try it this way, and I'll try it this way, and we'll see who.
It's all money.
Does it right? But yeah, I just, when I was watching this, I'm like, what the fuck? Which came first? Because they were the nightclub scenes were very fucking similar. And the
the dressing,
techno,
everyone dressing,
the way that everyone was dressed. And even some scenes where the SWAT are coming through the corridors and stuff. I was like, this is.
I think it's because
so inspired.
There was a dark cloud rolling into the year 2000, and I think as we got closer and closer to the end of into that new year, there was a lot of worry and a lot of stress, end of time sort of thing. And I think a lot of that was displayed through our artwork at the time.
Yeah.
And that's why I think a lot of this is, in fact, remember, I just saw a meme. Remember, Best Buy reminds you, turn off all your computers. 1999, right before Y2K, because you don't want your computer to explode.
Sure.
I remember. Do you remember those reports? All the computers exploding everywhere.
No, well, I remember that it was nukes. That it was supposed to be nukes. That all the nukes were going to just be released.
Everything.
At the same
because
time.
All what it was computers. There was some idea that computers couldn't withstand the turnover to the double.
Yeah, for sure.
Just fire off
computers were going to be like, wait, what the fuck just happened? Release the nukes. Fuck. Just release the fucking nukes.
It's clearly the end of the world. Release the nukes.
Yeah.
And zeros everywhere.
Wait, is it no time now?
Right.
We're outside of time? Then fucking release the nukes.
Right. That's how we invite the new year. So, yeah, that's beautiful. All right. So, Blade was written by David Goyer, and I'm sure you're familiar with this guy because he wrote the Dark Knight trilogy, Man of Steel, BVS, and a bunch of other stuff.
The Dark Knight trilogy was not written by Nolan then?
No, he is the director.
He was just directing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when I was reading this, when I was watching this movie, I was like, why does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
But yeah, holy shit, the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yep.
You know, that's very interesting because they have a similar feel.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
man. And, all of it has that sepia tone over it.
Yeah, where it's real, like,
darker.
Desaturized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what it's called?
Something like
it's, that. Yes.
It's saddied. All right, so the director, he did nothing before this, basically. He did
really?
a movie called Death Machine.
He
I've never even seen
onto
it.
the scene with this?
This last minute, never even seen that. And The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is the one movie I did see.
And it was caca.
It's fine.
Oh,
You've
yeah.
seen it?
No, I don't know.
It's fine. It's
Is it the one with Sean Connery?
Yeah. It's not bad.
He did
but
this after.
Yeah. That's afterwards.
Yeah. So I remember that more clearly. Than I
And
remember
movies
this.
called Meat Factory and Into the Meat Factory, which,
What year did the first Spider-Man come out? The first Raimi Spider-Man? 2000?
2001.
2001?
Yeah,
Okay.
2002 even, because it was. Remember they had that problem where they filmed it.
Oh,
it had the
yeah,
Twin
the Twin
Towers in
Towers,
it, and there was a scene where he did a webbing between the Twin Towers.
Yeah, sure.
September 11th happened, and they had to change
re-edit,
it
yeah.
for the release, so it had to
So,
come out in 2002.
2002,
Yeah, exactly.
It still seems like, what is it, 4 years?
Yeah.
Those are, such a small amount of time between
Absolutely.
this franchise starting and that franchise starting.
Yep, no doubt, man.
It's weird because, now I'm so used to just the control that Marvel has over its intellectual property.
Yeah.
But, you'd almost expect that with the success of this movie and the success of that movie, that somebody would have thought, let's start, making a fucking universe out of it. And, maybe they had the idea, but, nobody attempted that. That's wild to me.
Well, I mean, think about it. Okay, so Spider-Man was successful in 2002. I think that the follow-up was 2004, right?
But, Blade 2 had come out by...
Yeah, for sure. And Blade 2 was pretty successful. It had Guillermo del Toro directing it.
Oh, I didn't
so
know
it's
that.
much more horror. This one's fun, but they crank up the horror level in the next one.
Yeah, because this one's action.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and the next
Almost
one has
no horror. For it being a vampire thing, it almost had no horror.
No, this is cool vampires
Yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that, right?
These are the cool guys.
The next one has horrific vampires because it's Del Toro. So,
Okay, yeah.
and then
I'm almost, okay.
if you think about it, that was 2001-ish, and then there was Hellboys and all that other stuff around that period of time. And then, like I said, 2004 was Spider-Man 2. And then, I'm sure by 2006 they were working on Iron Man because it came out in 2008.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, maybe they were just hey, this is good, but let's not tell anyone.
Yeah.
Keep all the fucking rights because
Right. And we're going to start, and remember, because and Marvel was okay, let's start working on Iron Man and all that stuff. And they did all their shit. And they were here's someone buy us, right?
Yeah. That was the point
Yes,
for
exactly.
Iron Man and for Hulk. It was a pitch.
Somebody, right? Yeah. And then wasn't there one more Iron Man 2, right? Before they were actually bought out?
No. It was just those two.
Okay,
The
cool.
only non-Disney ones were Iron Man and Hulk, and that's just because if I remember correctly, that's all the money they had.
Yeah.
They were just let's just sink it into two movies and see if somebody picks us up.
Either one of these should hit.
Yeah.
And it did, obviously, but that's not here nor there. So we start off this movie and it's got, a dude and a girl and they're doing this thing and they're in the car and they're speeding and doing all this, edgy shit, and she's and grabs his dick and everything like that, and they're let's party or whatnot, and fucking the music's
Really
starting
aggressively,
to,
too. It made me uncomfortable.
And you get these little technoist music playing
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
They show up to the club. And, they're led into the club. Obviously, the guy lets them into the back room because it's a meat factory.
Meat factory.
On the
Yeah.
outside, right?
Yeah. Very ominously a meat factory.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if Seinfeld came up with this idea first or Blade came up with this idea and then Seinfeld used it. There's the exact same thing where they go to a part, this, George is dating this supermodel. It's a long story because it's a Seinfeld story, but he's dating a supermodel. They show up to this amazing club constantly. He eventually dumps the supermodel because he has this idea that he's going to get with these other supermodels. Obviously, that plan fails. Jerry goes with him to the club, and it's he's no longer allowed there, of course, and it's a meat factory.
I don't get
Where
it.
they pack because that's the same thing. Blade, that's a meat factory that turns into.
But that's not a part of the joke in Seinfeld.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So, anyways,
I thought that you were like explaining this joke.
It was like the joke is like he's like, I swear there was a club here or whatever, and Jerry's like, I'm sure there was or whatever, and like kind of like, and then they leave, but it's literally in the same area the club was, but it's now a meat factory. And when he walks
on the club or what?
Well, when he walks out, like the last scene is like a picture that he left there, so it's on the ground underneath like some like meat stuff or whatever, and like so we know that was what it was, but like there's a weird,
interesting. Okay, right, like nobody would believe him.
Yeah, yeah. So. All right, so
I mean, wasn't Seinfeld done by 1998? Didn't it have?
I think the last one. You're right. The last one was 98. So yeah, and that was around season 6 or 7. So that definitely came out before this. So,
sure.
anyways, I want to point out there's no club like this anywhere, and by no club I mean not that there's no like club for vampires and stuff like that. There's no badass.
Wait a second, hold on. You're telling me there's no vampire club?
Right. There's no badass underground club like this anywhere.
No,
like,
that's
where,
not
like,
true.
You think so?
Oh yeah,
not in this country.
No, guarantee you in this country.
You think so?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think really all it takes is money, but there's definitely clubs like this.
Okay,
you just have to know somebody.
Yeah,
but like there's got to be.
All right, I'll believe you.
I'm just saying that like this idea is too popular for one human being to not have tried it.
Right. You know? Yeah, that's true. So they get inside the club and it's just like the normal techno rave club type of thing, and it's just like bam, bam, bam. You know, great fucking music and everything. And then
I would have agreed with you a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like I think maybe 15 years ago.
Sure.
I would have been like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
But like. I started watching this this movie with Janet, and she's like, "Hey, do you want to go to an underground club with me?" Yeah. And I immediately was like, "No, absolutely not.
What? Why not?
Garbage.
Why?
That looked
in your 20s." Like, that's a club for people in their 20s and early 30s. You're old now, so right.
Yeah, but like just watching that, I'm just like, that's a sensory overload. Like, I want to go home.
But that's the point, dude. You get fucked up, and you're just like going crazy and that shit. And
they were going crazy too.
Yeah,
everybody looked like they were on something.
And then they start letting loose, and there's blood that's spraying from the fucking water fountains and all that shit.
Freaking out.
And dude is freaking out.
I thought he was going to be more of a character than he ended up being.
No, he's definitely not more of a character.
No,
so
he's gone.
And the party, of course, has to stop because Wesley Snipes shows up.
Yeah.
And, still to this day, like one of my favorite scenes in any comic book movie ever. He's just like, because the music stops and dude is just like Shaft, like sort of comic book character, right?
Sure.
And they were really going for that vibe, because I remember Blade before this, and he was like a superhero guy. He was black, but he was not like this badass Shaft black character that they like kind of turned this into with Wesley Snipes and whatnot.
Well, was he just like a black guy?
He was a black guy that just like ran around and like killed vampires, and he was like in the Spider-Man books and stuff like that.
So this is 98. You were how old with this?
I was 17, I think, when this came out.
Okay. So, way different experience of it than I had.
Of course.
Like, obviously. But, like, I remember when Blade came out, I never watched it.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about it. I never saw it really in the popular, zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Like, maybe some references here and there. But, like, when you watched it, was this, like, cool?
This was the most unbelievable thing of all time at this point in time, right?
Like, did you go to the theaters to see this?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw this opening weekend, I think. Like, it was me, a guy, and like 2 chicks, and we went to go see it, and it was like, we were blown the fuck away.
Yeah.
Think about the comic book movies that came before this.
Well, because
right?
like, when I was watching this movie, I was like, dude, the people who saw this in the theater must have been blown the fuck away.
Insanely. We were just like, what the fuck? Like, and importantly, like, we had no notion of what was going to happen going into this movie. We knew it was about vampires, and we knew it was this. But, like, I still remember, like, this first scene.
Yeah.
And, like...
Because it gets going.
Right. And it shows up, and then the techno starts hitting, and he just starts fucking doing his, swordsmanship, and he's, like, fucking doing all his kicks and all this other shit.
Exploding vampires.
Right, yes, like, exactly. And this CGI was amazing back in 98, right? Like, think about it. Again, you have to remember, pre-Matrix, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, you got to put your mind in this pre-Matrix.
Matrix
yes.
pushed...
Which Matrix pushed the fuck out of CGI. So this was like... Wow. And this first few minutes, you're like, wow, I'm on board for a ride, right? Like, you're like, okay, this is fucking great, man.
Well, I mean, because, like, we've seen now, movies that came out, because of you, I've seen movies that came out in like the 80s and early 90s. When was Terminator 2? Was that
Terminator 2 was like 92-ish.
Oh, okay. I think maybe I'm more acquainted now than I was before about like what kind of action movies kind of felt like around this time. But this felt, when I was watching it, different. Like I was just, holy, this is like movies now, but like the first one.
Of course.
That's kind of what it felt like.
Right. No, I would agree with you completely. I would say like this... less so than The Matrix, obviously, because it wasn't as popular as The Matrix. Like, I'm not even trying to argue that. But, like, these, like, movies of this time, like, changed how action films were going to... It's just like, you know, like, things like Alien and stuff like that. Like, or, like, different, like films that changed the trajectory of how films were going to be for the future and whatnot. Otherwise, they would just be boring, old, like, staying where they are. But there's always somebody who kind of ups the game and goes, we're going to go to this next. Right, yes, exactly. You
Clearly, they already had this, like, new vision for what it was going to be like.
Yeah, for sure. I think so completely, man. And so, you know, like I say, I can't gush about the scene enough, but I absolutely loved it as a kid. Rewatching it, I was just like, man, this was so fucking fun. And like, I was like, even now, like the combat and stuff like that, I know it's not like Marvel combat now because you don't have a guy like flipping through a wall and like doing it, but like I still love it because it's still that grounded in reality combat, other than like vampires exploding, obviously that. But like the kicks and all that type of shit are very like Raid Redemption style, where because like what can you do with martial arts? You know, it's still just martial arts, right? So and it reminded me,
it's just like kicking through walls and like the glass exploding or whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
A lot of the shotgun blasts were pretty like, you know, explosive.
Right, exploding, absolutely, man. So, you know, and the scene ends and the cops finally show up and there's like just a burn up corpse and they're just like, what the fuck, you know, like they like take that and then Blade's gone in the wind, of course. So they take the burnt corpse to the hospital and the hospital.
You know, can I mention something?
Go ahead.
So
that's what we were here for.
When the cops show up, Blade's gone.
Yep.
And it's just a dude on fire.
Yep.
And then they show this little scene where Blade isn't gone quite yet.
Yeah.
He's just like climbing through the rafter.
Yep.
I hated that. For some reason, I was just like, you didn't have to show me that.
Totally unneeded.
Yeah, like you could have just been like, no, he was fast and he got the fuck out.
Right.
But like the fact that they were like, ooh, you know, like that.
It's silly.
Yeah, to me, it was just like, yeah, show me that.
It's one of those weird scenes. It's like you know, but
I think they were just like, oh no, he climbed out. Right. But that felt so handholdy and it almost emasculated the scene a little bit. Like it made it less impressive.
I'm not going to go that far because I feel like when we sit here and analyze these things, we have the power to be like, that should be edited a little bit. And I don't know if at that time they could have been like, oh, this is a little too much or whatnot. Yeah. But, you know, obviously someone showed
a lot of this movie had a lot of... Okay, so it's treading new ground, but because it's treading new ground, it doesn't really know where its limits should be, you know?
It's going to trip here and there. Yeah, for sure. So the corpse, of course, then we have like a black nurse that's like kind of like handling everything and whatnot. And the corpse wakes up and attacks her boyfriend. Yeah. And of course, this was a trap though for Blade that he was setting. And Blade like shows up at this point in time. The cops are like, "What the fuck?" to Blade, shoot the shit out of him. Motherfucker, you out your goddamn mind?
You know that also stood out to me as a weird line.
Why?
I don't know. It was that one moment in the entire movie now in retrospect. It kind of stood out to me when I was watching it. But now when you're bringing it up, it's standing out to me. Because that's the one time where he really emotes.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie, he's like this like stoic motherfucker. Mm-hmm. But like in that movie, he was just like, you know, like...
What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, but he never does that the rest of the movie, you know?
No.
It's just like in that one scene, they were just like, be a little, you know, like relatable. Be a little down to earth. And then never again.
Like most things, like a John Wick or something like that, right? Yeah. This movie is this version of Blade, and then they ratchet him up each movie afterwards, where he's doing like ridiculous things. Like there's a scene in the second one that's maybe we'll get to it, but we're like, well, I'll just talk about it. Like he does all these vampire like things, and he's like, the one thing you notice, he doesn't have glasses on, and he's like killing all these people and shit like that. And then there's like this slow-mo, like he cuts off a vampire's head, the glasses fly off the vampire because they stole them from Blade earlier, and then he catches them and so he like slow-mo puts them on his face and then gets to fighting.
Did that not happen in this movie?
No, I don't think that's another movie because
that does happen.
He might have done that in this movie too.
But the dude that like cheesy shithead dude that's like throughout the
movie.
Oh,
right, yeah.
He's wearing his glasses.
I forgot. Again. You're right. That does happen here too.
He's like slices his neck off with like that tripwire shit.
Yeah.
And then catches the glasses and puts them back
on. Maybe it was this movie. I thought it was the second one, but like in the theater, some black dude that I was in the theater with was like just stops out of nowhere. Oh shit! Motherfucker got his glasses. When he catches them,
can I tell you how awesome it is that like 20 years later, you still remember that one?
Yeah,
dude.
absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things, right? It reminds you, like, there's things that always stand out. Like one time, I went to the movies to go see Last Samurai. It was me and Nowicki, and there were these old people. We went in the middle of the day, and there was these old people a few aisles in front of us, and we're watching it, and the lady is like talking to her husband the entire time, like in this movie. And she's like, oh, why does he have that sword like that? Oh, what is he doing? And I like lean forward and I go, ma'am, could you please be quiet or whatnot? And then I sit back down and she stops and because she has no volume control whatsoever. She leans back over to her husband and goes, I can't believe how rude he was. And I go, excuse me, ma'am. I could have told you to shut the fuck up. I asked you to please be quiet. Like, are you serious? So it's one of those things. You're going to remember things like this and whatnot.
Sticks out of it.
So, anyways, Blade saves the hematologist. Thank you. And they have like an adventure as they're getting out of the fucking hospital and fucking throws her across
throws that lady. Like literally
dislocates her arm, right?
He throws her across the street from one roof or from a window
to the roof
onto the roof.
Yeah.
Like that lady breaks every bone in her body.
Yeah, I think she dislocated her shoulder in that scene
like,
and whatnot. But
that stood out to me as like she should have died. Like that's death.
Or broken her legs at least, right? So,
for sure.
So
I really liked his jump though.
Yeah.
When he jumped out, and he just like lands. Yeah. He never seemed that strong again, though. Like that set me up for an expectation of his like ability that I don't think ever got.
I think towards the end he does too.
But that's when he's like enraged with the
because he's got the human blood.
Exactly.
Yeah,
he's eating human blood for the first time in like however long.
Yeah, I think that's you're supposed to like kind of get that idea that like he's like limiting himself a little bit because he's not using the blood that would power.
Sure.
I mean, really exactly. So so. I can somewhat agree with you. It's not something I really thought of much because he's still like this badass dude, regardless, right? So we jump over to like a vampire meeting, very Vampire the Masquerade, with these different, heads of the families and stuff like that, and they're meeting because they're not happy with the youngin that what he's been doing and whatnot.
I wish that in any movie, maybe the ones that came after this or whatever, that they'd explain who this guy is and why he sits on the council.
Yeah,
because from the looks of it, nobody tolerates this guy.
Right.
Like it's like a bunch of stuffy old dudes.
Yep.
And they're just like, and then this young shithead over here, and it's like, oh, but why is he here then?
Yeah,
like nobody likes him.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, everybody on this council's a pureblood. You're the only one that's not. Who let him here?
Right. Exactly.
Why is he here?
He's like, I think it's like, touching on like the Vampire the Masquerade sort of style where you have these different families and shit like that. And each family has a head. So he's like the head of that family. So he has to be at that table. But it's like the worst of like these families or whatnot. So
because nobody likes him.
I think in a more serious movie, you delve into this more and then like represent the class struggle that was going on here. But it's
because you have to have a sympathetic villain now.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and like now you'd be like, oh, it's because, like his dad was the old head of this family and the dad died and he's the only one that he passed his fucking shit to or whatever. But like any amount of why he's there would have been nice because it just from the outside it was just like, dude, everyone has a problem with him.
Yeah.
Why do you
He's a young punk that nobody likes, right? Yeah. Even if it was like something like he added like computer skills or technological skills or something like that they needed because of banking or whatever, like, right? Like, because the double zeros is going to wipe out all their bank accounts in Y2K, right? I don't know, man. They could have done something with that. But again, it's just a comic book movie. Yeah. And comic book movies before were even lower tier than they are now.
Yeah,
so
clearly. That stood out to me pretty immediately. That there were a lot of things where they were just like, wow, they really tried super hard in a lot of ways that you wouldn't expect, but they also really phoned it in a lot of ways that you didn't expect. Well, that I wouldn't have expected just because
you're used to now.
It just felt so like some things are done super well and sometimes they're just like, what?
Yeah, I could see that, I suppose, but I think it's one of those things where they only have so much money and
And I think the experience too.
Yes,
I think it's just like what you were saying. Comic book movies were like,
and the things that I'm talking about that the guy wrote, he wrote later. Like this was one of his first movies. David S. Goyer wrote. Yeah, so it's one of those things where like it got better with time, probably.
Sure.
So Blade gets back to Whistler, and that's like his partner. That's like his Q, like who hooks him up with a lot of his stuff, and he builds a lot of things for him and whatnot.
Yeah. Do you know much about the Blade character in the comics? Have you read any of his?
Like because I was into comic books, but this was definitely like in this day, I was definitely like an X-Men guy.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Around this period of time. And then I got into like Spawn really hard. Sure. So like I wasn't huge into Blade because Blade was a character, if I recall correctly, was more like an 80s character. Okay. So it would have been a little bit because I was a young kid in the 80s. Yeah. So I don't even know if he, like, I remember him being on the Spider-Man show that was out in like 91 or 92 when I was a little kid. I remember him being like kind of cool there or whatever, but like not to this level.
Yeah.
But like, it was definitely like he was a vampire hunter. And like, I don't even know if he had his own book ever before like this movie was successful. And now he's had more and more.
He was always
stories.
just like in other people's books.
Yeah, exactly. Like he showed up in like The Punisher, I think, and he showed up in Spider-Man for sure. Like those Hell's Kitchen sort of like stories, like Daredevil and all that kind of stuff, so. But like lower tier than like the normal superhero and all that. So, all right. So we deal with this the chick, the hematologist. I forgot her actual name.
Yeah, me too.
But she's ready to rock it out and she's ready to help out. Or I think at this point she's like, I'm done with this bullshit.
She's trying to run away.
Yeah, exactly. And they're telling her like, dude, you were attacked by a vampire and this and that. And she's like, I'm supposed to believe this bullshit you're selling? And you're like, you just met this fucking dude who was burnt to a crisp, woke up and started biting people. Like.
You're like, this is not,
Exactly.
Why would we fuck around?
And she's like, I'm leaving. And they're like, all right, fuck it. Good luck on your own.
I do like that they were just like, here's your pepper spray of garlic.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Like, I don't know. Like, I liked that they did away with the crosses in the holy water.
Sure.
And that they were just like, no, this is some actual stuff. Like, they just have like an allergic reaction to silver and to garlic.
It won't kill them, but it will like help.
But the garlic, for some reason, still stood out as like Transylvania-y, Like the silver. Okay, I like made my peace with that pretty easily, but the garlic for me still felt cartoony.
I don't know. Like, think about this, right?
We put essence of garlic in.
Right, but think about this. Like, humans in general already have like a natural reaction to too much garlic.
Or to anything.
Right. Well, that's true.
There's like a million things. That
yes. But garlic is one of those things almost like onions that like gives a person like they will have a reaction sometimes like, ugh, So I guess you could like go, the senses of vampires are so hype, I don't know. Like I don't really try to dwell on it too much. But
I just feel like it was the garlic that seemed funny in Transylvania-y, Like it felt so old school where the other things that they had gotten rid of, I feel like they got rid of them for that same reason. Yeah. Like they were just like, come on, a cross in fucking holy water. They're like, that's too cartoony. But let's leave the garlic. Right. Like that's.
I mean, you gotta have a couple things, right?
You gotta have more than one thing.
So then we jump over to the vampire leader guy, the suited up vampire who's gonna go talk to Frost.
What was his name? He had a ridiculous name.
Of course, it was very old. Right?
It was like Draconis or some shit.
Yeah,
like
something
that.
dumb.
Yeah.
And he's gonna go talk to Frost and really kind of talk some sense into him.
He's gonna rein him in.
Yes, exactly.
Pull on the leash.
And he's just like going off and whatnot. And then he doesn't realize that he has earbuds in or whatnot. And then
he slapped him across the face.
Yeah. Well, first he's like screaming at him, "Damn you, Frost! Listen to Yeah. And then he's like, "Oh, wait, what?" Like,
it seemed like his dad.
Yeah.
Then for a second, it seemed like his lover.
I never got that.
For like a bit.
Okay.
Like it really looked like he was like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give you anymore. And the other guy was just like, well, maybe I don't want anymore. Like that's the vibe that I got from that interaction.
I think
and then he slapped him across the face.
You're way too modern. Like that's like something that happens in modern.
Maybe,
not in these days.
Maybe Goyer was writing that stuff in. And it was just too early to be too outright about it. But
okay.
I think nowadays that movie comes out, they're lovers.
Sure.
And that's how we got on the console.
All right, cool. I'll rock with that. Clearly, Frost is up to something like going on here, but he did. The lead vampire is like, dude, this is a bunch of bullshit. Get on your shit.
Yeah, because there's like a prophecy that was written by the old ancient fucking vampires. Mm-hmm. Then that language is lost, and Frost is trying to decode it.
Yes,
and he's just like, you're never gonna fucking decode this shit. Mm-hmm. It's undecodable.
Yeah,
I mean, he does it. He did it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
It took him like 3 days.
And some connections and stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely. It is a little weird. So we jump over to the Blood Lady again, and she's like starting to notice things are a little weird and everything's a little off. And she gets to her apartment, and there's something wrong in her apartment, and the cop's there. Yeah. And he's like, hey, I'm
they never brought back those fucking people from the elevator. Like, I thought that was going to be a bigger thing. It was just, what they were just saying, vampires everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Or like people connected to vampires are everywhere. Yeah. And, but like, it's not a conspiracy that they're out to get her or anything like that. It's just like, nope, we live in the same apartment.
Yeah, I just live here.
I think that's what it was supposed to be saying. It's just like they're everywhere.
They literally are
connected everywhere. Yep. So cop shows up in an apartment. He's like, where the fuck were you? Like you were attacked, this and that. We couldn't find you. Of course he's there for the vampires though. But this was all set up by Blade, who Blade busts the dude and beats the shit out of him.
There are a lot of scenes like the scene that we get here where Blade is needlessly destroying everything in the fucking room.
Yes.
I was triggering to watch him.
Just like smashing him into things and stuff.
This lady lives here.
Yes.
Like, you don't know what this stuff means to her. He picks him up, throws him through the fucking table, up against the shelving units. I felt bad for her.
Yeah.
That she, like, later on comes home and is just like, oh, yeah, that's right. This guy fucking trashed my apartment. Like, I was like, with zero care. This guy was kind of a dick. I'll be honest.
I mean, to the point where like
asshole.
This cop is like a blood runner or whatever, and that's what he does. And they're like in like the pub on like a New York street right there,
dude.
And he's just gonna blow her,
cop,
right? Just shoot the fuck out of him. She stops him from shooting the fuck out of him, right? And he's like, "What the fuck did you do that for?"
Yeah. I swear,
you
to God,
ever get in my way again? Yeah,
yeah. It was just like because he's like assaulting a single cop on the street of New York. I was like, nobody's gonna do anything.
Oh, well, clearly not.
Other cops aren't gonna be like, hey, what are you doing?
And, I was thinking to myself, man, I was looking at people's clothes and like everything else. And I was like, man, this is how we lived in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Did you get a little nostalgic for it?
I got a little nostalgic for you know what I get nostalgic for sometimes? Pre 9/11 America.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't really experience much of it.
Right.
Like I was 12.
Yeah. No, I get it.
I remember pre 9/11 America, but I don't remember like the cultural zeitgeist.
I was 21, up to 21, and it was a different place in general.
Of course.
And I remember seeing a movie called The Siege. Have you ever seen that movie with Denzel Washington and Bruce Willis? And what it was about, terrorists, Middle Eastern terrorists, setting up a plot to destroy a building in like New York or some shit like that, right?
Okay.
And it was like the reaction to that, and like they enacted all these laws that allowed you to like just like invade people's privacy, and they turned like a bunch of New York into like this police state, and they were just like taking Muslims out of their houses and stuff like that, and rounding them up and putting them in camps and all this other shit, and all these like destructions of rights and things like that. And this came out in like 99, and I was like, oh, it's like almost exactly what happened actually.
Didn't I just watch a movie where this happened?
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, I rewatched that movie recently, and I was like, it's crazy that like, because I forgot what I remember seeing it in the theater, and I watched it recently, like the last hour and a half of it and whatnot. And it was all about Muslim terrorism and targeting large buildings and this and that, and like, which they did before 9/11, obviously, with the World Trade Center building earlier,
It was like 91.
Yeah, something like that. It was definitely during Clinton's presidency, so a little bit later than that, but 93 or some shit. And then like, and the Oklahoma City and all that stuff. So like, I was thinking to myself, like, man, 9/11 really inspired this movie and that blah, blah, blah. I thought to myself, I saw this in like 2002, and I was like, they were almost a little too much with this. And then I looked at the date, and I was like, oh wait, this came out pre 9/11. It's funny how like fucking on the nose every reaction was to this. So kind of like that. What was that movie? Contagion. Right? Yeah, with COVID. It's like in hindsight, wow, they really.
And like you watch the movie, and you're just like, there's no way that all the governments made mistakes. Come on, be real. And then an actual plague happens, and they're like, oh yeah, all the governments made all the.
It lets me know that these movies were written by somebody connected to like some of the actual things. Like I'm sure, like
they
I think Contagion. They had like they had like a couple like I forgot what they're called or whatever, like the Fauci type of people,
virologists.
Yeah, stuff like that, and like how this could happen. And then like same thing with The Siege. I'm sure it was like somebody connected to counterterrorism or something like that helped them write it and shit like that. And just like
they're just like likely this is the way like it would.
This is probably how it'd be. How they would, exactly. And it's like, oh yeah, no, that you're right. That was exactly how.
I wonder
it
if they're
went.
just like, damn, that money was well spent. It's a good thing we got that guy.
Yeah. So Blade shows up at the place that he was told about by this guy, and he uses a secret room to get into a library. And then we go over to Frost, and Frost is having a nice little party and
real
doing his little
swanky
thing.
rooftop
like,
party.
This is how we partied in the 2000s.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
Before
missed that.
9/11. It all changed after 9/11.
Damn.
So
With the little rubber duckies and everything?
exactly.
Wow.
Blade meets Pearl, and that's the record keeper.
Yeah, the big, disgusting slob of a vampire. Gross shit. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the cop runs off to tell, Frost about what's going on. Frost and Blade have a little discussion over the computers because this was the age of computers.
Yeah.
Computers never got better than
World
this,
Wide
actually.
Web.
Yes.
Yeah, they were talking through a webcam.
Yes.
Wow.
It was insane.
Yeah.
We were
I
like,
wonder if people like in the theater were like, shit, I wonder if that's going to be like possible.
no, we were like, that's a cool imaginary thing. But, futuristic Blade Runner technology.
Sure.
So then at this point, Frost is like, okay, that's cool. You got Pearl. But you know what? I got my people on you. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. You're history. And so they kill Pearl. And then they're like going to get away. But then, of course, the vampires start showing up to fuck up Blade.
Yeah.
And they start destroying everything. Again, they're destroying like the prophecy things and all that stuff.
Wait, is that when they're in the place that has the papyrus?
Yeah.
Like in the window, and there's a little girl like running around and shit? Is that when that happens? Like he goes upstairs, I guess,
yes.
or something like that?
Because
that's the room, that's where all the like Asian guys are.
Yes, the Asian guys are
Yeah. And then, so like that also stood out to me because he's walking around this room that has like these ancient scrolls like preserved in glass. And this lady's just like, what is this? And like, oh, this is like the first book that was ever written by vampires. This is their entire history. This is the most important fucking thing that they own.
Yep.
And then vampires come in and very recklessly just start shooting around, destroying all that. Like it's worthless. Like it might as well be worthless.
Frost, dude, they don't care. They're young vampires. They're like, fuck the past.
Yeah, you think that was like thematic?
I mean,
like there was like subtext there was nuance.
No, I think it was just cool action.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it makes sense that they're just like, oh, it's because the new vampires don't care about the old. You know, like it's kind of a representation of the old destroying the new, or the new destroying the old. But I think in reality, Goyer was just probably just like, and now we need a cool action scene.
Exactly. And so he's fucked, except for Whistler shows up, and Whistler kind of fucks everything up for these vampires that were about to kill Blade.
Kind of fucks everything up. Really, just blows a hole in the wall.
Yeah, and just starts shooting people.
Yeah,
exactly. So
when he falls, when the train is coming and he falls in. It's like he's dead.
Yeah.
And no, he was not dead. He just kind of fell in the well.
Yeah, they take off and then they get away on a train.
Yeah, the train was closer sometimes than I thought it was, and much further away sometimes than I thought. Because like, there's a scene where Blade grabs that shithead's face, and just like shoves it into the train, and it's like right there. Yeah. But then also they like fall in between the train a bunch. So like, how close is this train?
It's a flexible train. So, and they get home, and then we get a little bit of a story between the hematologist and Whistler, and we get a story of Blade's backstory. Yeah. And then it kind of gives you an idea of why he really saved this woman, because it reminded him of his mom. Yeah. So it makes sense, that.
And we did get that mom scene at the beginning of the
right, exactly. But it connect that a little bit more strongly. So then we go over to Frost, getting ready to do his thing. So he's got to get rid of the ruling class of vampires. So he just rounds them up, puts on some sunscreen, I guess, and goes out.
Puts on. I mean, why not just always wear sunscreen?
Pretty much.
Like, why? What solution do you need more than just put fucking sunscreen on?
None. And wait, no, biker helmets too,
and biker helmets
because they put down the shade. Yeah. So
and also that scene looked atrocious. Like I get that it was 1998, but boy did that look bad. Yeah, when he explodes in the sunlight. Yeah. Also, I do though like the creative decision to make him explode. Yeah, like he didn't just like
melt
or turn to dust. Like he blows up. I did like that. That was very interesting.
Yeah. So those guys are all gone. So Frost is now in shield.
No, just the one guy.
Good point. Yeah. No, I thought they had the other. They have the other ruling class dudes out there too.
No. They just take him, and then he literally the next scene he shows up and like real like big boy pants. I'm wearing my dad's suit. Yeah. Like puts his feet up on the table
like you do,
and he's like, "Where's Draconis or whatever? What did you do to him?" And then he throws the teeth on the table. Yep, because he pulls his teeth out. That's right. Before,
and then he's like,
"Damn, what a like pissing on a dead body thing to do." Yep, to like take a fucking vampire's teeth. Like you're not even gonna die a vampire. Oh, That's some.
I think you
spitting
still
on a
would
grave.
die a vampire.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's like some spitting on a grave kind of thing.
Yeah, a
Like,
little spite.
You get to
Spite.
leave with no dignity.
Yeah, it's spite.
Yeah.
A little bit of extra. So we find out that they didn't catch the chick's vampire bite in time. The hematologist, and she's gonna be fucked. She's gonna turn into a vampire.
This was confusing me. Does she ever turn into a vampire? Or does she cure it?
She cures it.
She does.
Yeah,
cure it?
we get to that later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because I remember she was just like, "Oh, we're just going to treat it like a virus. It's going to retroactively blah 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 with my DNA or whatever."
Yep.
But it's just not going to work on vampires that were like born this way. That would just happen to vampires that
Turned.
Yeah. But I wasn't sure if she had done it or if she was just thinking she could do it.
Yeah. No, there's a scene where she does it later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why I missed that.
So now we get to one of the all-time Facebook meme scenes.
What?
This is the Twilight Blade scene.
Twilight.
Where Twilight, it's got the two Twilight characters and Blade standing behind them, and he's like, didn't you ever see? You've seen that fucking meme on
I don't think
Facebook
so.
plenty.
Yeah.
Where it's like the two vampire characters, Edwin, I think his name is, and the chick, and then Blade standing behind them, and they're like, "This is the true end of Twilight," or whatever.
No, I don't know.
Fucking
Yeah.
So I like this scene much more as an adult than I did a kid, because this is the scene where Frost tries to reason with Blade,
Sure.
and he's like, "Dude, all these people, like, they don't give a fuck about you, man.
Yeah.
Like, what are you even doing, dude?
Yeah.
You're one of us. You're a vampire, like, and you're kind of
Well,
like
he's got
me."
the little girl in the park.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, "You're kind of like me, and we can do our thing here, man. Like, why don't you join me?
Sure.
Together, we'll fucking rule this place, right? Like, there's no reason to do what you're doing."
Yeah.
And he's like kind of reasonable in some of his.
Well, for like 98, he still seemed like an asshole, like a real grimy evil guy. But at least he was trying to be civil, I guess.
Yeah. Well, he's trying to say like, look, the fucking humans hate you just as much as they hate me.
Sure.
And you are like me. You're more powerful. So why are you fighting me?
I don't even get like where he was coming from with that though, because like the humans don't give a shit. Why would anybody give a shit about Blade?
I don't know.
Like I would have been like, whoa! What humans do you know don't like me? Because like, why? Where are you getting that from?
I dress nicely.
Right?
I've got a fresh haircut.
I blend in. I look pretty fucking
Exactly.
cool. I doubt anybody.
I look
dislikes
like
me.
anyone in the 90s, right? Late
Right,
90s,
sure.
right?
They don't like you because you're a creepy weirdo.
Yeah.
But I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly. So then it doesn't go well, of course, and then we get some bullet time shots.
Yeah. I wonder if the
bullets.
Wachowskis were like, oh, I think we could do this better. But that's a cool.
Oh, I'm sure that's what it was, because it was a year later or so that they.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure that was like
because by
that's
then,
cool, but
I feel like the production for the Matrix bullet time was like at least a year or two in the making. There's no way that they saw this and then immediately were just like, let's rig up those cameras today.
No, but like Blade, if you figure, okay, the Matrix was made, Blade was clearly made, a year or so earlier as well. Yeah. So it's one of those things.
Actually,
where
didn't movies take like 5 years to make?
I think Max Payne did bullet time before any of this stuff did.
Interesting.
Because you had that in that video game, and I think Max Payne was like PS1. So yeah, it's old.
Sure.
But, so then at this point, Frost is like, "Fuck Blade.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna fuck me up some Whistler."
Yeah.
So he does fuck up Whistler.
Where does Blade go? That's my question. Because Frost immediately goes to Whistler after the scene.
Yep.
And Blade goes where?
Chilling.
To go get a burger?
Yeah. He's going to hang out. He's going to his other spot.
He's going to another spot?
Go talk.
He's gonna go catch a daytime movie?
Go talk to Ghost Rider.
I was like, where the fuck did you go? Why didn't you also immediately go to Whistler?
Yeah,
he shows up like 3 hours later. Whistler's all beat up. Where were you?
Yeah, and importantly, that hematologist, like we talked about, made the serum at this point. Right?
Oh, is this the scene where she healed herself?
She had made the serum. And after they fuck up Whistler, and Whistler's clearly dead.
They really whoop his ass.
Yeah, they're like,
that dude gets really beat up.
Yeah, I'm not going to turn you. And he just starts kicking his face in, right? So Blade shows up. He ain't too happy with Whistler, being fucked up, which I don't know what this big deal is.
And then Whistler's not even dead.
Right. So he's like, kill me, Blade. And he's like,
but I guess he did turn him in the end, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because Whistler's just like, give me your gun because I'm going to kill myself right
Yes, exactly.
And
gives him his gun, shoots himself, and then he moves on.
Yeah.
So Blade ain't happy about this, and he starts doing his 80s montage prep scene.
Yep. Which was very weird.
Yep.
But really silly in one scene.
Give it to me.
Because he's got like this tiny table with stuff on it.
Yep.
And
he's a little bit of a samurai.
Yeah. And he needs the table for something.
Yep. Preparing his bullets and all that stuff.
And then he just like pushes everything off of the table super dramatically.
In a slow motion way.
There's like water on the table and stuff. I'm just like, dude, you're in your house.
Yep.
You just use your hands.
He's used to Whistler cleaning up after him.
Just picked it up. But he's like, no, just dramatically pushes everything off.
Oh, yeah.
And then he grabs this plant that I have no understanding what the significance of the plant is. You know, they've never explained the plant.
Yep.
They showed the plant one time earlier in the movie.
That's correct.
And then he slices the roots off of the plant. And I'm like, okay, what was that? What the fuck was that?
In my notes, I still don't know what this is supposed to mean. I'm hoping Antonio will explain this.
I was really hoping that you would have like in my notes. I have a behind the scenes that they cut out.
Yeah, the plant cut scene. I have no idea what this is supposed to mean.
I fucking love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So now we're going to jump over to Frost because Frost is going to do a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And
he's got so much shit that he does now. Yeah. Oh man, this scene, because he like gets everybody. This is when they're in like the tomb, right?
Yep.
And he
no, not at the tomb yet.
Oh, okay.
Because Blade shows up to siege this thing, and he gets caught up.
Oh,
and
that's right.
They catch him.
They beat him up.
Right? They beat the fuck out of him.
Yeah.
And this is like you point out. The guy takes his shades.
Yeah.
The guy from Gotham takes his shades at this point. He's like, "Thanks for the shades, man."
Yeah.
And this dude right here. This is what happened. This person is what eventually became of Ferris Bueller.
What?
Tune in next time for that. So then they take the girl, they take Blade, and they head out to the temple, like you brought up earlier.
Yeah. Then
so
the weird tomb thing, which they get there and he's like, this tomb has been forgotten about. I want to know where the tomb is. Did they fly to a different country?
Probably.
Or are they still in New York?
Who knows?
Because now it's just like, we're at the tomb now.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, is this a super ancient tomb in New York?
Probably.
Where the fuck is this tomb?
Yeah, because the original tombs the original pyramids came from the United States.
Yeah, so I was like, did they leave? That was, I didn't like that. That was very disjointed. And then the, just how drawn out this scene was pretty fucking obnoxious. Because Frost goes through this whole fucking plan, and then I feel like in Industrial Light and Magic, whoever did the fucking CG for this was like, oh, this is our time to shine, and there was like a million moving parts and lightning and blood.
You're getting way ahead of yourself, dude.
Everything.
This scene, I want to point out too, when they show up at the scene, it's kind of like under construction, and I was like, oh, cool, this is where they got the idea for Thor from.
Why?
Because this is, remember his Hammerlands, it's at a construction site, and he's got to go.
Sure.
This is clearly.
But you're right, because he meets his mom and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a vampire version of his mom.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Because she's a vampire.
Sure.
Vampire.
Yeah.
So,
and she's super gross and was making out with him and shit.
Trying to.
Yeah, that's so. What the fuck was that?
She's a vampire now.
I guess the direction for that was weird.
The girl, the hematologist, is thrown into a pit too, like a weird pit.
And then her ex-boyfriend is in there. What the fuck?
Yep.
What a weird let's just throw that guy in there.
Yeah. Well, he's a creature, not a vampire, but like a weird ghoul creature.
Yeah, because I guess sometimes you don't turn into a vampire; you just turn into a ghoul.
Yeah. So Blade at this point is put into a chamber thing that cuts his wrists and gets the blood flowing, and this is the key blood to get everything started.
So there's a scene where Whistler calls him the Chosen One.
Yes,
I laughed out loud.
You should have.
I literally it caught me off guard because I think it's when he's dying, and he's like, the Chosen One, and I couldn't that was too funny.
What is funny about that?
It's just
I think it's extremely important scene.
I think that's another one of those things where it's just okay. I mean, this was trying to be serious, but it had a very limited language.
Yeah.
Because it was the first one. Mm-hmm. But that is just such a meme, a cornerstone meme that him saying it totally straight faced, very serious. I don't know. It was I was like, okay, this is a very silly movie, you know, like
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. But anyway,
So then
just love that.
the hematologist runs up to Blade, gets him out of the chamber.
Yep.
And she's like, all right,
He's dying.
I'm going to sacrifice my blood.
He's lost too much blood.
Take some of my blood
Yeah.
and repower yourself. So that happens. And at this point, Raiders of the Lost Ark starts happening.
Full Raiders of the Lost Ark times like its length when
Yeah.
the Nazis are dying times like 3 or 4.
Yes.
Like just like give me 15 minutes of this elaborate thing happening. Nobody's talking. It's just
Skeletons
screaming.
are like pulling out of people.
Skeletons crawl after like 20 minutes of this happening. The skeletons crawl out of their mouths. Fly around Frost. They all go into Frost.
Pushing into Frost, and then Frost is like, it's like he is Belloc, except for he gets the power.
Yeah.
As opposed to Belloc's face getting melted off. Which is
Also-
a little weird, too, because Belloc wasn't a Nazi. Like, I don't understand that scene, because Belloc wasn't looking for it for the power.
He didn't
want the power, he just wanted the discovery.
I think it's just nobody can see it because
because you're right, because Indy's like, close your eyes, or whatever,
yeah.
and they would have gotten killed, too, probably, if they would have
They're
watched.
just like, don't witness it.
Yeah.
Whatever's happening, just
It's the
don't
power
see
of God,
it. It's
and
not
that's
for
too
you.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly,
for
the
sure.
power of God is not. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
So he's now super powered. Vampire God.
I also didn't get how this very elaborate mechanics stuff was happening because, like, from the looks of what they were explaining throughout the movie, because a lot of times they show this like very elaborate
Tomb thing,
3D like rendering of what was supposed to happen,
very high tech,
and it showed all of the bloodlines having to feed their blood into one person.
Yes.
First, he killed one of the bloodline guys, so like he's already down one guy.
Yeah, but that blood is still there. So, right, because they I see what you mean. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
There's like one missing.
Yeah.
So like right off the bat, like, did you not just kill the one, like one of the guys you
maybe
needed?
his son or whatever? But
they were just like, you're like his cousin, right? Okay, just come with us.
Yeah.
And then 2, what was Blade, like he just needed to activate it? Like Blade's blood needed to activate it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess that makes sense. Okay.
Yep. So
I don't get that though. Like there was just like, if there's ever a guy that is like almost a vampire, then you can bring me back.
It's the day walker, because so it's a person who is
both.
Yes.
He like you just need that like strength of blood or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because he's from both worlds.
Sure.
So yeah. All right. So then Blade is like ready to be powerful, and he's like, and like his mom is chilling there, and she's like, hey, and he kills the shit out of his mom. Yeah, exactly.
And he just
kills her, and then jumps down, and
I feel like she made the mistake. Like if she wanted to live, she shouldn't have been like, hey, I'm not your mom anymore.
Yeah,
because later on she's just like, you're gonna kill your mom, and I thought he was gonna be like, you're not my mom anymore or whatever, but he didn't. He was just like, I'm just gonna kill you.
Yep.
I think he said like, you're gonna die or some weird, completely not referenced thing.
Sure. And finally kills the wisecracker.
Super unceremoniously too.
Cuts like, doesn't he, like, he has like the string that he cuts off his head, and then grabs his
like
shades.
a garrote wire.
Exactly.
And he runs at him, and literally the most unceremonious death in the entire movie. It's like, why did you build this guy up so much to give me the most unsatisfying death for him?
Yeah, I know. He's just like, it's weird.
He should have died like peeing and pooping his pants. That would have loved that more. In like this really humiliating way. They should have degraded the shit out of him.
We have a different expectation of.
He should have been crying and peeing and pooing his pants.
You watch different movies than I do. So then it's just Blade getting loose now.
Oh, and that other lady too.
Yeah.
And the lady kills her.
I do like the scene where he rips out a vampire's throat, throws the throat at another vampire, which blinds him, and then he kills that vampire.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, it's 90s fighting.
Yeah.
A lot of 90s fighting, and the power through Wesley Snipes doing his kicks and all that type of shit. So,
It almost, like when he rips the vampire's throat out, it almost just looked like he took a little piece of the neck.
Yeah.
I feel like now, if you're going to do that,
you rip out the whole throat.
Get a little gratuitous with it, Really let me see that throat come out. But it was just kind of like, it just takes off this little bit.
Well, it's the 1990s. So then he gets his showdown with Frost.
Yeah.
And it's just like, them doing their things.
And it's not bad.
No,
it was all right.
It's definitely 90s. Like the special effects aren't great and shit like that. And he cuts him in half in one scene. Is like, very old CGI. Blood pulls them back together.
Yeah.
And eventually, of course, the MacGuffin of the serum is what finally kills him and shit. Which is cool. Whatever.
Which they didn't break because that's not the serum they thought.
Right.
They thought it was the serum that keeps them from having to drink blood.
Yes.
But it was actually the serum that is like anticoagulant.
Yeah.
That just like for some reason reacts terribly with vampires.
Yeah, exactly that. And they explain it, even like how it works with the blood and shit like that, because she created it or whatever, right? And yeah, you're right. They thought it was his serum that keeps him healthy or whatnot, but it's actually a new way to kill vampires or whatnot. So yeah, it's the serum that does it, hits him with a bunch of them, kills it. And then that's pretty much the end of him. The hematologist and Blade talk for a little while, and she's like, hey, I came up with a new drug for you, so you don't have to use the same drugs you were doing before. This one's going to be much better, so you'll be able to kind of do your thing and not have to have these breakdowns that you're having or whatever. And then she's like, what do I do now or whatever, and he's, kind of just like, you're on your own now. And she's like, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to do what I do.
He said, the war isn't over.
The war isn't over. Right. Exactly. Yep. So, and then we jump over to
like, are you sure you don't want to be human anymore?
Yep. And then this is what we did in the 90s, because we didn't have Marvel to show us how to do it. Mm-hmm. We get a post-credit scene because it's in Moscow. And there's
I was like, was there a post-credit scene? No, it was just
and we
at the end
flip
of the movie.
it, right? And it's now the same type of scene as the bloodbath starting, but it's a guy doing it to a woman, and then he speaks Russian, like like good evening, comrade, or whatever, and then
he looked at the screen and he said, "Tune in for the sequel."
Blade 2.
Does the sequel take place in Moscow?
No, the sequel takes place in the United States.
That's so fucking dumb.
Yeah. So
next time we're doing it in Russia, and then the next time, no, I'm kidding. We didn't have the Russian money. I'll be honest.
This movie is credited as helping a lot of things get extra money and shit like that. One of them specifically is The Matrix.
Yeah.
It's actually, I read about it a little bit. They were able to secure even more money for The Matrix because of how well this movie did, and it was a rated R movie that did very well in the same kind of scheme.
Like, hey, don't we have like a fucking movie that's like this in production?
Yeah.
Let them know that they have more money.
Right, yeah. This movie cost $45 million to make.
Wow.
Okay. In the U.S. alone, it made 70.
Oh.
And it made 131 worldwide.
Okay.
So it 3 times its money, basically. Which was like silly for a comic book movie at the time. Like the only thing that did better was Batman, and it was rated PG. So this was rated R, and it did this well. So it was really kind of groundbreaking.
This was just like, hey, adults are trying to pay for movies.
It was actually one of the things I saw that helped Sony go, we're doing Spider-Man for sure. Like if they can make 3 times the money on a rated R Blade film, we're going to double or better our money out of a Spider-Man movie. So we're really going to pour money into a Spider-Man movie and do it well.
That first Spider-Man must have cost a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, but it did crazy well,
it
did
numbers for sure.
Yeah, it was like the best-selling movie of the year and everything else. So this movie is credited also as in revitalizing Snipes' career. He was very much like a decent, like good actor in the 80s and 90s.
Sure.
Did a lot of like black films and stuff like that. So things you might not have heard of, like Sugar
dramas?
Hill. Yeah, absolutely. All of the stuff he did before here, for the most part,
I think
was
I really
dramas.
want to see him in a drama because I've only seen him twice now.
Sure.
And it was in Demolition Man.
Sure.
And here.
Yeah.
Those are my 2 experiences with.
So there's like a comedy that's also a drama called White Men Can't Jump, and he plays like a basketball player in that. And Woody Harrelson is like his teammate, and they do street ball and stuff like that. Definitely like has jokes, but it is a serious movie.
Sure.
Sugar Hill, he plays like a drug dealing like lord or whatnot. Like Nino Brown. What movie was that? I can't remember the movie he was Nino Brown in.
Okay.
King of New York or something like that.
That's a little bit more drama.
Yeah, like he's a drug kingpin and shit. Sure. And then like what was the other? Jungle Fever, obviously, is like a movie about love between a black dude, white woman, and shit. Okay. So it was definitely at the time. It was definitely like I remember like they had it like on Time magazine, and it was like,
well, I mean, I read sometime not long ago about how like hard it is to put a black male actor with a female white actress. Yeah. Like it just like that. Don't do that
for sure. Yeah. And so like this is certainly, especially because they made multiple movies, the most well-known movie Wesley Snipes is known for at this point. Like he's definitely been, I'm sure people know him as Nino Brown and stuff like that, but if you ask the majority of people name a Wesley Snipes movie, Blade is going to be the film. Exactly.
Instant.
So I feel like he is, to me, especially like for people that are like 40-ish, and whatnot, he's like the original Black Panther. Like he's like the comic book black dude who's like, that is the fuck. And it was like one of those things too where
did you have that same reaction though?
No, because I don't think it was as publicized, right? He was just a cool ass black character. Yeah. So, and I don't think like,
did you feel represented?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think he was, but like white people loved him too. So it wasn't just like, but he was like, he was extra, and like I feel like he was very black in how he was too. Like it wasn't like a character trying to be kind of white or anything like that. He was like kind of street and stuff like that. And so like he had the high top fade and everything else too. So I feel like
kind of street. I feel like he had a line or two.
Well, I mean, like, but the fact that he was like this silent black presence, like, like I think that added to it too, like the big black tough guy or whatnot, that was kind of like the stereotype back then. Sure. And like I said, I think like Black Panther too is a character who's very black that everybody likes except for racist piece of shit on the internet, which are more loud than reality because that's what the internet is and shit.
I'll be honest, I haven't even heard any racist talk shit about Black Panther. Like I feel like just across the board, Black Panther is just kind of liked.
I think so, but I think like at the time when Black Panther was out,
like racist kind of like the idea of Black Panther because like that's like. Yeah, Africans should definitely go back to Africa and live in Wakanda by themselves. Like, that'd be great. Yeah.
And, like, this is also credited as the first success for Marvel that was, like, that helped push Marvel back up into where it eventually ended up. Yeah. Obviously, this is not, like, something, like, no one would try to claim that this is, like, what made Marvel successful or anything like that. But it was certainly that first step that took them
because it was, like, Hulk. This and then X-Men in, like, 2000.
2000, yep.
Yeah, and then, like, Spider-Man 2002. And it's just like, wait a second, what the fuck? Who are these fucking characters? Exactly. These are good.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So, what do you think, man? Would you recommend Blade to a person who is, for some reason, not seeing this movie?
I don't know if I would. It's a really, like, the sensibilities for this movie, you have to really be forgiving, I think. Well, like, one thing, it's funny that we were just talking about Wesley Snipes. One thing that I realized watching this is that I think Wesley Snipes is a bad actor. Because he didn't do a great job with this movie. Now, that being said, like, that's why I was just like, I'd love to see him in, like, a dramatic role. I'd wonder if he's, like, is a better actor in a dramatic role. But his deliveries were really bad in this movie. And I don't know if it's that the directing in this movie was just like, well, you got to play it up because it's action or whatever. Or if it's just that Wesley Snipes is more of just like a fighting guy than he is an acting guy. Mm-hmm. But I thought his character was dumb. I like just like the way that he portrayed it. Because like I do like the idea of Blade, and I'm actually really excited to see what Mahershala Ali does with this role. Sure. But the way that he played it, I was just like, oh, they just didn't stick it. And like just the rest of the movie was just really schlocky. It was just like a really like I don't know, schlocky, I think is really the word for it. It's campy. It's really campy. But you could tell that it's like, we're not trying to be campy. Sure. We're playing this very seriously. But it was like the first version of them doing it. So like, I don't know. I don't know that I would have 100% be like, oh yeah, you should watch Blade. It's a great movie. I would probably be like, Blade's fun. If you want to watch a fun kind of like early superhero movie, yeah, it's fun, but it's really silly, and you'll feel it. And like, I get that they're comic book movies, so there's silly shit happening always. But I feel like we've gotten better at taking the silly shit seriously. Whereas at this point, it was still just like, I don't know. It was very early on, it felt.
Interesting.
But yeah, but that's how it felt like to me. Sure. Like watching it for the first time in 2022 as a 34-year-old. Yeah. What did you think? Did it hold up for you?
I think it's held up for me better than many of the movies we've watched. Yeah. Not as good as like Terminator 2 or something like that, but like, or Alien even. But like, this is definitely one of the ones where I was like, yeah, this is This is pretty good. And it's still like, you know, I'm sure it's partially nostalgia. It's still probably in my top like 5 to 10 Marvel movies. Like as like a Marvel film.
Yeah, that's got to be nostalgia though, because they just take them so seriously now.
Yeah,
you know?
maybe that is the thing. It's just like, I think one of the things I like about it is, and it's funny you brought that up about the horror. I feel as though it's like a horror action film.
Sure.
It's certainly not horror, but it was more dark than any comic book movie before it, and almost any comic book movie since it, other than like the things like The Boys and shit like that, you know, that take it to a different level. But it is one of those ones where it to me, it's just a fucking cool movie. Like it's cool 90s style film. And that's, you know, definitely different than what we're used to at this point. And it's Marvel character that I like. In that sort of thing. And you bringing up Mahershala Ali makes me worried actually a little bit. So what I'm worried about actually watching this movie is Wesley Snipes brings a physicality to this character because he's actually a martial artist that is a black belt.
It definitely seemed like that.
Right.
Whenever he was doing all of the martial arts,
I'm going to show you.
That dude felt like that was not a stunt double.
Right.
Like,
No,
that
it
guy
definitely
was
wasn't.
doing
Yes,
that shit.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but Mahershala Ali is probably a better actor, in my opinion, than Wesley Snipes. Although I think Wesley Snipes
is a fucking great actor.
He is, definitely. And like, I think Wesley Snipes is a great actor, but you're right, like this role is different. Like, but I think it's the role that they put him in.
Sure.
And he's definitely more vocal and has more lines and stuff like that in the next few movies.
Sure.
Cracks more jokes and stuff like that too, you know, kind of dry jokes and shit. But like, definitely in that
I didn't
vein.
get what vibe he was supposed to be giving off.
Yeah.
Because sometimes he was just like, I'm kind of like a relatable, down-to-earth kind of guy. And sometimes he was just like, I might as well be a robot. You know, like I might as well not be a fucking human being, you know?
No, totally, man. I get you, dude. So like, yeah, and it's just, I don't know.
You know, like, I also think that maybe I just don't have the nostalgia for this movie that would make me like it, because I watched The Matrix over.
Oof.
And that's a perfect movie. 10 out of 10.
Man.
Everybody's perfect. But like, that's my nostalgia glasses, right? Because that's got to be a campy movie. There's no way that it's not. But like, I watch it and I'm just like, dude, this movie's fucking perfect.
For sure.
I can't wait to, with my daughter, when she's in her 30s, watch The Matrix and be like, what do you think of this? And she's going to be like, that was
shit.
ass. And I'm going to be like, this is a perfect
Like,
movie. What are you talking about?
Yeah. No, totally, man. And let me tell you something too, bro. Like that annoying ass vampire, you know, who's cracking wise the entire time. He's just like, you know, like this and that. Yeah. He got me thinking to myself, what was that guy like as a teenager before he became a vampire? We're going to find out next week with Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, he's in that movie?
Basically.
Oh, no.
We're doing it live. Some motherfucker always trying to ice skate uphill.